Hi everyone, Eoin here from Creator in Conversation, and welcome to today's special episode where we are doing something a little different as we tour the collection of TASQ Art. So welcome and hope you enjoy today's episode. I recommend to all listeners on our audio podcast feed to consider checking out our YouTube page at TASQ Art in order to fully enjoy the visual experience for today's episode. So this is the shared space outside our office at the Edge Dublin, and we also have access to Black Box, which is 30-seater, and the Apex, which is a 90-seat theatre. And as you come to our outside of our main office door, you'll see some wonderful artwork along the original logo designed by Ellie Wright with colours by Cormac Hughes and a great Paul Mason Phantom poster. And that would bring us into the main studio space, which also doubles as my office and where I am recording today's episode. So everything was pretty much assembled by hand by myself, with the exception, of course, of the print machine, a Cantech machine we use for print and production of various Light and Strike books, because this is also the HQ for Light and Strike. But I tried to make everything as fun and entertaining and inspiring as possible for the students who participate in our various courses. I have a full lineup of Batmobiles as well, everything from BTAS to the Batman Beyond. I do also have the Dark Knight Returns Batmobile, but that was too big to fit in the shelf. And to keep with the Batman team, I also have, of course, a 66 Shakespeare bust and a Bat phone from the same 60 show. We also have Keaton's 89 cowl on top of our bookshelf as well, along with various other reference books. And some of the books we keep on campus also date back as far as the 1940s as well. And it is it is risky when we have it on site, mainly for when we lend out books. And as of recording so far, students have been very good at returning books. It's actually the lecturers who have been slow to return the books that they borrow. And this is only a small selection as well. I'm actually looking to install some more units in the near future also. And keeping with the Batman team, of course, what would any well-to-be pseudo-Batcave be without a giant Joker card, giant penny, and of course, not quite a giant dinosaur, but as you can see just in the top right where the skylight is, I tried to find the largest dinosaur I could. And we also have all these various pops. I've been very fortunate that some of the material, if not most of the material in the campus here, has all been gifted to me for the most part, with some select works bought by me at auction. So I went out to try and get the largest dinosaur that could fit, and that was as big as I could get. The Joker card and giant penny are printed on a foam board, and that was produced by PrintSave. The Joker card is actually taken from Jerry Robinson's original design of the Joker playing card. So this is what was meant to be the inspiration behind Jerry's idea of creating the Joker, and you'll often see it appearing and being reinterpreted within the trophy room of the Batcave. And of course, the giant penny, I know it's the wrong year, but this is the only high resolution I could find in order to have it printed up. So those fun little props I had made. And we also have a couple of film-related props in a manner of speaking. We have, of course, autographs from the late, great Adam West, from Burt Ward, and the late, great Kevin Conroy as well. We also have this really cool map of Krypton, which was part of a supplement to be included when they were thinking about designing a World of Superman theme park, which never got picked up. But instead, what they ended up doing was reproducing a book called The Amazing World of Superman. And it was a hardback, almost like A3 in size, and it has all the original designs. I believe Neil Adams did some of the concept artwork as well for some of the trips you could have gone on in the theme park, including a Rocket from Krypton-esque adventure. And there's also a premiere ticket. I've been fortunate to go to a couple of premieres here in Dublin, and that one was for The Flash, where Michael Keaton returned as Batman. So we have a couple of framed items, and then we have some screen use props as well. This is a prized possession of mine. It's actually a movie prop from Superman the movie. So I just love the 1978 Richard Donner Superman the movie. I often teach it and talk about it in class, particularly when I'm teaching narrative-based students. It's a great piece because there's many levels you can appreciate the film on. You can appreciate it from its technical production, how they achieved those special effects without any CGI, as it were. You can also appreciate it for the narrative and, of course, Christopher Reeve's performance. And here, this screen use prop is Metropolis Times, and you can see at the bottom left of the screen there's a picture of Ned Beatty and the character of Otis. And essentially, fun story behind this piece. Superman the movie was filmed in around New York about 76, 77. But there was a blackout in New York. And so during the blackout, they actually used the generator from the film production to ensure that the New York Times could actually be produced and get out. So it was like the fake Daily Planet, as it were, helped the real Daily Planet get out. Now, this isn't a Daily Planet. It is a Metropolis Times newspaper. And what it was used was these sheets were printed and then wrapped over real newspapers. So when you see the kind of news style that Otis is at, that's all prop papers made reflecting the storyline. Of course, this is the Trin missile test, which Lex Luthor later on hacks and is part of the climax of the film as well. So yeah, it's pretty cool to have. And the frame in which this piece arrived, I ordered the frame separately. So I managed to find this on an antique website, and then I went out and I bought a frame separate, but the frame arrived smashed. So this is me putting it together and strategically placing everything, and thankfully it has held up quite well since it's adorned the walls. So touch wood, as he says, recording this. And one of my favourite scenes in the film as well is where Jeff East is just about to leave home. He's out in the cornfield with Mark Kent, and I met Jeff East, must be, my God, nearly like 15 years, if not, go back in London for a show. And I was telling him about that scene, how I loved his performance. And yeah, it was great, because this is a real Norman Rockwell type scene, beautiful score by John Williams. And he actually had the very image, which you can see on screen now for those of you watching on the YouTube channel. And he was able to just sign it for me. So I had that signed and framed and hung up on my office wall. So yeah, it was brilliant. And again, I got to learn a lot about the practical effects behind making the film. Like with Jeff, they actually put prosthetics on his face to make him look more like a young Christopher Reeve. They actually had Christopher Reeve overdub his dialogue as well to ensure the transition, that you could really feel it was the same person. And if you look closely, just before Pa Kent dies in the film as well, you notice that Jeff's kind of limping as he's walking up after he's done the speed race with the train. And that's because to achieve that effect of him racing against the train, they had come up with this type of harness to make his legs move in a particular way in tandem with the train, and it actually tore all his ligaments. So he really put everything into the performance and then some. So yeah, if you ever watch him in the movie again, you just might notice he's walking with a slight limp. But my God, extraordinary performance, and it really does help to develop the beating heart of that film as well. And of course, no Superman the movie collection would be complete without, of course, an autograph signed picture of Christopher Reeve. This was purchased by myself from a private collector a few years ago, and it was signed back during the making of when they were filming Superman 2. So that's where this item would have come from as well. And I was fortunate enough just last year to have met Mr. Flash Gordon himself, Sam Jones, at Malta Comic Con. And it was fun because he's really friendly with all the other guests, really interested in what everyone was doing. We, of course, were printing the Flash Gordon strips, Oscailga in Irish here, and continued to print them in English with the Task Force magazine. And so I was showing him some of the Irish strips. I gave him one of the strips in Irish where Dan Scotty had done his likeness, as he did a homage to all the other Flash Gordons, and showed him basically what we do. Gave him one of the Task Force annuals as well. I think it was the first annual. And he then swapped over and he gave me this great Alex Ross piece, which he signed. And he also gave me one of the Mad Cave comics signed as well. So yeah, it's really, really kind fellow. It was a lot of fun. Malta Comic Con's one of my favourite shows, and that was a great experience. And this is an interesting piece. I'm not much of a horror buff now myself, but this piece is of course, Jason Voorhees mask, but it's signed by Kane Hodder. And it was actually made by a friend of mine, Jay Flood, and there was a horror show which was happening out in the Red Cow here in Dublin, God, it must be like a decade ago or so now. And Kane was there with a bunch of other guests, and Jay had made these masks. He had cast it himself, and at the end, Kane signed a couple of them for us as well. So it was awesome. And ironically enough, just at this point of recording, I'm just recording this on the 3rd of May, 2026. It's been announced that Kane will be appearing in the next season of Dexter Resurrection as well. So that's pretty awesome. So yeah, so we have a lot of these movie props and practical props as well. We do, of course, have more practical equipment. So you've seen earlier on the Cantech printer producing various strips and magazines. We can scan up to A3. We can print and bind on campus as well. Although typically for a large job, I would have other printers assist me as well, just from a production and practical point of view. But we also have more production-based tools as well. Every tool and marker you can think of, steel rulers, drawing boards, Bristol board, you name it, watercolors, we have it, even easels as well. So we have an awful lot. And as I was trying to say earlier, I really want the space to be something which is like a gallery to inspire, like a museum to inform, where people can really get up and look at the pieces and actually see the brushwork and try to break down and understand what the artists were doing and the decisions they made, and really try and make it an inviting space for all, which I hope in the future to expand. But I guess those of you listening and our students and members, they'll be the deciding factor as well. The more the merrier, the further we can grow. We've already increased the space by twice its size since we moved in, and we're only in our second year as well. So it's good progress, and hopefully long may it continue as well. So I want to move on just to show you a little bit of some of the pieces of the artwork we have on display here. Now, I will forewarn you that the manner in which the studio space is set up, it's designed to try and capture as much light as possible. So we have basically two windows, and we have a type of a skylight as well, and then the far wall is also all glass. As a result, though, when recording and taking a photograph, it is terrible because everything I try to put into glass, and then the light reflects against it. So hopefully you won't see any silly pictures of myself, my tongue hanging out, as I'm desperately trying to snap a picture of something in a frame. So I've done my best, and bear with me. And for the audio audience, I'll do my best to describe the pieces as well, as to what we have and just the story behind them and any hidden histories that may interest you along the way. So first up, we have this really exciting piece. It's actually a father and son duo in the collection. We have a John Romita Jr. piece and a John Romita Sr. piece. The John Romita Jr. piece is a Thor comic, a really kinetic image where Thor's being thrown asunder. And the John Romita Sr. piece is a Captain America head sketch. Now, with the senior piece of Captain America, this is exciting stuff because you really get to see his pencil work underneath, and then you can see the overlay of the ink in which he produced over it. And with Junior, this was a wonderful find because not only is it an actual Thor comic page, and it's a very kinetic one as well, but it's also inked by the great Dick Goriando as well. So Dick Goriando, fantastic editor, inker, artist in comics as well. So this is a twofer. It's a John Romita Jr. and a Dick Goriando piece as well. I was so happy to find it. And it was great that we were able to have father and son side by side as well within the academy. And this is like really what it's all about, capturing a little bit of the history of some of these artists and the stories behind them, and having them up so that the students can admire and take in, as well as the many visitors that we have. And then along the way, we also have some other interesting pieces, like this one I found at auction. It was a Wayne Boring piece, and Wayne Boring was a phenomenal Superman artist. Now, I'll admit, for some people, they find that his work might not be their cup of tea, and I can kind of appreciate that. He's a much more stockier Superman than you would expect, but he was one of the prominent Silver Age artists for Superman. He really helped to define some of the early stories of the character. And when you look at George Reeves on TV, who portrayed Superman at the time in the 1950s, it really did kind of emulate his physicality, as it were. And what's unique about this particular piece is that Wayne Boring also did the newspaper strip for Superman. And in this piece, we have a Clark Kent 3-panel scene where he's going undercover in a prison. But for some reason, and the auction house wasn't sure, Wayne Boring had somehow pasted over a cutout of Superman onto an overlay. And so for some people, they might think, oh, well, it's damaged goods. I'm like, no, not only do I get a Superman strip by Wayne Boring, but I also get a Superman Wayne Boring on top of it. So I'm like, yeah, I'm totally okay with that. I'm happy. I'm happy to have it in my collection. No problem at all. And then in terms of another newspaper strip, I have this great piece from that was gifted to me by my friend Alex Saviuk. So Alex was the comic book artist on the Spider-Man newspaper strip for a number of years. Officially credited with Stan Lee and Larry Lieber. But for the most part, Larry mainly did the breakdowns and Stan provided a rough outline. It was really Roy Thomas who ghost scripted the stories, and Alex did a lot of the artwork. When Larry finally retired, Alex was then officially credited as the artist on the script as well. But again, he was really doing a lot of the heavy lifting onto the artwork anyway. It was really his artwork that was really taken over onto the strip itself. And what's really exciting about this particular piece as well is that Alex, of course, I worked with him on the Phantom, and he's known by many as being a Phantom artist. But if you ever see that iconic, silver suit armored Spider-Man, that was also one of Alex's iconic runs on the character as well. So that's his design. So that was pretty awesome as well. And I'm really happy to have this strip as part of the collection. And at the end of the first semester at TASQ Art, what we challenge all our students to do is to produce their own strip, which we then print in the local newspaper, the Tala Echo, who are in fact our neighbours here at the Edge Dublin, where TASQ Art is located. And you can check that out in July. Typically, you'll see some of the student strips, but it's great for them to be able to come up and see, well, how did Wayne Boring do his strip? How did Alex do his? And just a comparison and get adjusted to the pacing of it as well. And this is a fun piece also. This is another auction find I found. It's Jeff Darrow, which you may know from Shouting Cowboy and Hardboiled, and we also have Frank Miller, and this is actually a tablecloth. Now it's folded up so that I'll be able to actually fit it onto the wall space itself. But we had Frank here last year for a masterclass. I remember showing it to him and he was smiling, going, yes, I remember this piece. So this is only a portion of it. If I was to actually take it out and unfold it, it would probably occupy the entire ceiling of our office here. But it's kindly positioned on a spot where you can see a head and some fish drawn by Jeff Darrow, and then the Bullet and Batman drawn by Frank Miller. Just a fun little jam piece on a tablecloth that was produced at Paris Comic Con, I believe, a number of years ago. So that was a fun piece to have. And one of our most exciting pieces that we have is, of course, an Alex Ross character sketch of the Riddler. So this is a wonderful piece, and of course Alex Ross is held in such high esteem within the industry, and his touch and approach to comics is something else. It's pretty phenomenal, and this is just awe-inspiring to have, and just to really see his use of shading, his many different perspective and angles. Like, you don't just see when you do it. Sometimes when people do a character design, a character model, you get the typical tree poses, front, side, back, and it's very linear. In this, we see, Edward Nygma's kind of hunched over, the use of the cane, the tilt of the hat, the shade and the shades that he's wearing, really capturing how it would look. Very photorealistic, very exciting stuff as well, and happy to have this on display at the Academy as well. And it's definitely one of our key pieces that we have here to display. And also in terms of process, we have an interesting piece, which is Sean Gordon Murphy's White Knight. This isn't a full piece, this is actually a breakdown, but it's wonderful that students can come in, examine this and understand what goes into the layout and the breakdown of a page as well, help with some of the decisions that they may make and examine the decisions made by other artists. And this is another fun piece. When I first went to New York Comic Con the first time, many, many moons ago, the first thing I bought was some commemorative Batman stamps that the United States Post Office had for sale. And above it, we also have a signed print from Tom Moore of Cartoon Saloon from the film Song of the Sea. A number of years ago, Tom was a guest at Dublin Comic Con, and this is perhaps the biggest show that Lightning Strike had ever done. I believe it was also coincided with perhaps the first time we had done the Phantom. It could have been the launch of the 80th anniversary of the Phantom. It was a big, big show. It was so big that I was the one to invite Cartoon Saloon over, and they had some books ready to go to the show. So I said they could ship the books to me, and then I'll be able to bring them down with the rest of my stock. But adding up the number of books that Lightning Strike had and that Cartoon Saloon had, it was so much stuff that I actually had to rent a truck. You know, it was incredible. At the time I'd kind of, I suppose, underestimated, thinking I could just put this in a suitcase and get like the Lewis, and then I was like, oh no, this is gonna have to be a truck. So, and when I initially I got the truck, I was taking this behemoth of a truck pulled up, and we were in different offices then in the city centre, and I was like, oh, I'm never going to fill that. But by the time everything was loaded up, pull up banners, prints, books, everything, yeah, we kind of filled the space. So off it was to the convention centre. And then we had this great spot. It's since been reconfigured on Artist Alley, but we had this great spot of a table where you would come in through the door and see us, and we had like a square table formation, and people were coming up, and our spot was so busy that the folks at Cartoon Saloon who were along the wall with the other guests pulled their table up to our table then, to try and get some of the same of the crowd that we were getting. Oh, it's a funny occasion. But yeah, so we have this anyway hanging up just as a memory of the chaos that is conventions and everything that comes with it. Not just getting your book ready and selling, but the transportation of the book, the flow of traffic, managing a table. Ah, the list is endless. This next piece is really interesting. It's a piece from Batman The Widening Gyre and illustrated by Walt Flanagan. You may know Walt from TV. He appeared in Comic Book Men with Kevin Smith, who is also the author behind the two Batman books which Walt Flanagan worked on, which were Batman Cacophony and Batman The Widening Gyre. And as I mentioned, this page is from The Widening Gyre. It's a fun piece because if you look at it, you'll notice that Walt is presenting his interpretation of the classic Silver Age Batmobile, with the kind of the bat-shaped head ram on the griddle at the front of the car as well, which is pretty cool to see. And he approached it with great modern sensibility, and it's a fun piece really to have, and it hangs up here at the academy for all of our students to take in, to be observed by the technique and the work that goes into it. And I really hope we get to see the conclusion to the Riding Gaia as well. Hopefully we get to see that sequel. Now, this next piece is the envy of any comic book collector or collector of sequential art. It is an original Steve Ditko page. It comes from Charlton Comics in the 1970s from a series called Ghostly Haunts. Now, there's a really fun story behind this particular page. I had originally purchased it at auction because Steve Ditko, absolutely. If that's a possibility, I 100% want it. Of course, Steve Ditko, co-creator of Spider-Man, creator of Doctor Strange, his impact and legacy in comics remains unmatched. In fact, if you are a fan of Steve Ditko and his work, I invite you to check out our 3-part mini-series, Steve Ditko Beyond the Myth, which we recorded last year in season 1 of Creator in Conversation. We interview academic Dr. Zach Cruzy, who wrote various texts and papers about Mr. Ditko, including the seminal work Mysterious Travellers. We also have, of course, Jack C. Harris, who wrote the text working with Ditko and was Steve Ditko's fellow collaborator. He wrote some Steve Ditko stories and was his editor. And we close out with Mark Zen Ditko as well, who was Steve Ditko's nephew. And it was great insight to the artist, to the man, as it were. And but this particular page, last year as well, in the first few episodes of Creating Conversation, I had the good fortune to interview Paul Kupperberg. And as I interviewed him. We stayed Facebook friends, and one day he posts up this very page, but in color. And he was saying that this is a short story he had written, which Steve Ditko had drawn. I was like, wait. I was like, Paul, I have that page hanging up here at the academy. So really a small, small world. And when you look at it, it is unmistakably Steve Ditko. Like you can tell from like the way the characters hold themselves, um the use of the light, the shading, the hands, the poses. But when you look at the bottom right of the evil looking talisman, it's so Ditko-esque. Like even the eyes are very evocative of Spider-Man, which of course was a Steve Ditko innovation. So this is a wonderful piece. And when Frank Miller was in last year as well, I took it down to show to him, and he was admiring it, and he was saying to me that he too had a Steve Ditko piece, but his was a Craven the Hunter pin-up. So to have some sequentials, he seemed impressed by it as well. So yeah, this is a wonderful piece, and again, it's great to have. I really hope in the future to be able to put on some kind of an exhibit. That's always been part of one of my plans with the academy. I would love to have like a public space where we could have all of this open for the general public to visit, as well, of course, as students and members. So yeah, a great Steve Ditko piece. And these pieces are wonderful. These are gifts that were given to me by Emma Kubert, who, of course, was visiting here as a guest at Dublin Comic Con a couple of years back, and Anthony Marquise, who is the president of the Joe Kubert School. So, really happy. They were so kind. They came down, they did a masterclass, they did portfolio reviews with the students. It was a fun day. And then at the end of it, they presented to me this painting, this drawing of Batgirl and Batman as well. And keeping with the Batman artwork, we actually do have on campus some originals. We have a Bob Kane Batman head sketch from circa the 1980s, and we have a Bob Kane Robin sketch circa the 1990s. What's curious when you look at them is that they very much look like they were ripped from the 1930s, 1940s, but notoriously Bob Kane employed many, many different ghost artists and definitely ghost writers as well. So it was very rare for him to actually, draw or sketch anything himself. I purchased these from a private collector in Limerick. God, it must be nearly going on 2 decades now. But if you want to see some original Batman artwork by the real creators, well, we have a fantastic piece here from Sheldon Moldoff, known to his friends as Shelley, in which he signed this particular piece. It's a stunning piece of Batman and Hawkman. So Shelley was one of the main artists behind Batman. He was the co-creator of Mr. Freeze, the Scarecrow, Ace the Bat Hound, the second Clayface. Like, if you were reading a Silver Age Batman comic, you were definitely, reading something that had Shelley's contributions. And of course, Hawkman as well, one of his most associated characters. And this piece, I was so happy to have both Batman and Hawkman appear in it. And the line work is phenomenal, like just so clean, so sharp. It looks like it's an actual print. It looks like a fine art print. To see that this is done by hand, absolutely amazing, stunning work. And it's a real shame because when Sheldon was the ghost artist for Batman, no one knew. And when it became aware that he was actually doing the artist, the artwork for Bob Kane, he was then dismissed from the titles because DC didn't take kindly to that. So yeah, it's a real shame. And again, Batmite was one of his contributions as well. It's just a brilliant piece. And every time I look at it, I just love it. Even it has a great use of color as well. And yeah, it's so clean. Because sometimes when you look at the Silver Age comics, the rendering and publication of them can be somewhat a little, stilted, because the production values weren't what we have today. But when you look at the original artwork, you kind of see what was really being lost in the translation of some of the work sometimes, from illustration to mass production. But yeah, this is an all-time favorite piece of mine, and promptly hung up here at the academy. And yeah, just look at the feathers and Hawkman, immaculate detail, great stuff all around. And I've also been very fortunate to have been gifted a couple of things along the way and to come across some other original pieces. Like my very first commission was from a Dublin City Comic Con, which is hosted by the folks who are now running Big Bang Comics. They had Dublin City Comic Con, then they had DICE, Dublin International Comics Expo, and now they run and operate the Big Bang Comics out in Dundrum, and they had Michael Locke over as a guest, who I believe is coming back to Inniskillen Comic Fest in the near future. But yeah, Michael did this wonderful sketch. He did the Gotham Central book as well as his run on Daredevil, and that was like the first image that started the collection. And then to the far right, you'll see this fun variant cover from Scott Snyder's Superman Unchained, and it's by Jay Fosgate, and this was gifted to me by a friend of mine, Darrell Cox, who was good friends with Jay. And yeah, he was over, I think, at one of the American shows. I forget which one exactly, but it's just fun. It's just a fun comedic little cover there as well, and it's a great piece. In the middle, this one wasn't a gift. This was another auction find of Dustin Newgan Streets of Gotham page as well. So that was so happy to be able to find that and be able to hang that up as well into the Academy. And just below the Michael Locke piece as well, we actually have a Peter Tomasi Batman and Robin script. And this is fun because I have some Simon Foreman Transformer scripts as well. And what I do is I put them in polymer pockets up on the wall so that they can be on display. But then I can actually just unpin them, take them down, and actually go through them with the students as well. Just really show them like, here's an actual bona fide script that's been used by working professionals so that we can all analyze and study together. And even Peter Tomasi, who was the writer, gave a little Batman head sketch onto the script there. I got that in New York a couple of years ago as well. So yeah, just fun pieces. Really happy that I'm able to have this collection together to be able to present to our various guests, members, students. It's a wonderful, wonderful piece. And then next up, we have the bona fide masters of the industry as well, Mr. Frank Miller, who gifted me this wonderful original blank Daredevil variant sketch that he did for me when he visited last year. And beside it is a print from one of Mr. Miller's mentors, the legendary Neil Adams, who was fortunate to meet a couple of times at New York Comic Con. And this is a print of his iconic Batman pose, that dynamic hand extended, running to action, leaping from the page almost. And so that's a print which I had him, signed to me as well. I met him at New York. And then I have some interesting pieces also, like Eric Powell, who you might know from like the Goon comics as well. This is a piece from 2003 where he did a Batman sketch, because you wouldn't associate Eric Powell with Batman. And when I came across it, like, this is unique, this is interesting, I'd like to keep that. And then, of course, we do have actual comic books, but as well as the practical reference books and books to read, and just to understand the classics, as it were, we have some really interesting pieces. We have this Action Comics #1 facsimile from 1992, but what's so exciting about it is it's actually signed by Jerry Siegel, the co-creator of Superman, and it's numbered as well. So a very limited few of these exist in the world. And beside it is my hardback copy of The Origins of Marvel from the 60s, and this is actually signed by Stan Lee when I met him years ago at London. It was one of his last London appearances. And that's not the only Stan Lee piece we have signed. We also have The Amazing Spider-Man #3, first appearance at Doc Ock. And we have more Silver Age comics on display, but haven't got time to really fit them all into today's video, but that might just give me an excuse to make video 2 in the future. And that's a great piece, and that's also signed by Stan Lee, Amazing Spider-Man #3. And then we also have a great piece, of course, Hush, the original comic as well, 608, Batman 608, signed by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee as well, who I met about 2 or 3 years ago at New York also. So that's a fun piece. Above it, there's a Batman Spawn book, which is signed by both Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane when I met them both for the first time at New York years ago. But that was actually up too high for me to get the camera. And I was like, I don't feel like getting the ladder out for today's episode. So again, if you enjoy today's episode and would like to see more, that might incentivize me to get the ladder out. So let me know into the comments below if you're still watching or listening along the way. Now, one of my personal favorites in the collection overall is this brilliant Kurt Swan page. Kurt Swan is the Superman artist. You can't go wrong with Kurt. This is a phenomenal piece. I was so happy to add this to my collection, and now it's publicly on display here at the Academy. No one has done it better than Kurt Swan, honestly. And I do also hang up some of my own work as well, such as this wonderful print of The Legend of William Lamport, illustrated by Cormac Hughes, coloured by Trina Farrell. And just beside it, we actually have the original artwork to the Half Past Danger Christmas special by Stephen Mooney, which this is Stephen both wrote, and he also drew this particular cover. And the colorist on that project is also Trina as well. So I was so happy to have that up here on display. And the original artwork for the Half Past Danger Christmas special came into my possession after backing the Kickstarter for the project. So that was one of the incentives and rewards for it as well. So that's pretty awesome that we were able to have that onto display, and it was a great piece as well, and it often is a conversation starter for many who visit at the Academy as well. Okay, so up next then we have this is a fun piece that you're about to see, this statue. So the statue of Starkiller came into my possession because years ago a friend gave the statue to another friend of mine in his place of work, and that friend accidentally led to the statue falling down some stairs and getting smashed. So he kind of ended up rebuilding it a bit, and then that friend moved on to a new gig, and then when I was moving to this office, I said, well, I might as well give it a home with the other stuff. And then I noticed as I'm recording today's podcast, it is the 3rd of May 2026, but it was actually on the 4th of May 2024 when we had our very first masterclass with Todd Stashwick. And when Todd was over, he was looking around everything and he's seen the statue and he goes, I know Sam, like Sam Witter, who of course was the actor behind Starkiller. So it was May the 4th, which of course is a Star Wars day, and he took the picture and he started like WhatsApping it to Sam himself saying, hey, look what I found here in Dublin. Again, it's so funny because it just goes to show how small the world is, that the statue would eventually be sent to, like, a picture of it to the actual actor it's modeled on as well. So funny, such a small world. And then when you come in, there's a lot here designed in the office to, I suppose, arguably my own personal taste, but also like a monument or a memory to the various projects I've worked on. Behind the main door, there's various posters and leaflets from other events and publications we've done, like the Sherlock Holmes special that I produced for charity at Dublin Comic Con many years ago. You're going back nearly in excess of a decade now, I'd say, probably 12 years. The poster, The Sign of the Fox, which was a student animated project I supervised back in my days, lecturing animation. Highlander commemorative magazine we did as a special for Dublin Comic Con. The cover to Light and Strike 9. A short story which was finally published in Light and Strike 10, but originally designed for an anthology with IDW and then Legendary. Then the whole project folded, and that is the publishing side of the project. Our project was done. It was a short horror story called Stasis, which I did with Rob Carey. A snippet from Prince Valiant, a commemorative anniversary magazine we did. 2 posters from the Irish Comic Chat, which is something we tried to take off. It was an idea that Rob Corley from Sub City had, which is in March, to do an event called Irish Comic Month. And then from there, we tried to build it up to an annual event, but I think it patted out after the second go of it. But we did various talks at like Trinity College and out here in Tala. And then the centerpiece, I like to frame some of the magazine covers that we do. So we have the latest Phantom magazine that we did, the Popeye magazine as well. We have them framed. And then in addition to some of the material that we have on display, I also like to, I'm either gifted or purchase some posters. And we have this brilliant painting of the 15th Phantom, which is produced as a fine art poster print, which is on display. And of course, the Phantom I'm heavily associated with. And it was funny, before I moved into the academy, I just had a corner desk in a shared office. So sometimes I would get visitors from Australia or parts of the world, Scandinavia, with Phantom's very popular, and they would want to visit just to see where we make our Phantom comics, and they'd be kind of disappointed going, oh, it's just some guy sitting in front of a printer somewhere. So when I moved into the academy, then we actually were able to spread out the entire collection of Phantom stuff that we have. So some of it are gifted prints, like we have the original cover to the Phantom Strikes 2, which Jamie gifted to me. We have Joel Folder original sketches of Phantom and Mandrake. We have some Alex Saviuk pages. We have Cy Barry prints and signed comics as well. Action figures, folks have gifted me prints of our 4 strips that we published, printed proof of the strips, posters, patches, badges. But one of the key pieces is really the fine art painting of the Phantom on horseback of Hero outside the Skull Cave, which was painted by Oisin Roach, and this served as the cover to The Phantom Strikes 1, which was a mini-series we really tried to get off the ground with Light and Strike Comics as well a number of years ago, and that's something which is quite breathtaking to see when you come in. It's in a wonderful frame. Ironically, the frame that the Phantom painting is in, when you see it, it's the same frame that the aforementioned Superman the movie prop with the newspaper is framed in, and this frame also arrived broken. So I was able to repair it, but then one day, and this is the only major risk we've ever had in all the time I've been in the academy, but one day, it was a Monday, I come in and the painting was hanging out of the frame because the frame I had managed to patch it back up, but it somehow slid down, probably a change in temperature. And as a result, the frame gave up and I was hanging. Luckily, because it was initially broken, I had taped the back of it so it didn't fall and smash onto the ground. And so what I was able to do then was to replace the frame. So what you see in the picture here is the replacement frame. And actually earlier on in this video, if you look at the spin around the office at the opening, that was actually the original frame. So it's pretty indistinguishable. No one really noticed. But yeah, a bit of a risk when you hang all these original pieces of artwork up around the place. So that's it for today then, folks. I'm going to close out this episode. My apologies to audio listeners if this was somewhat boring to listen to. It wasn't very stimulating in terms of perhaps listening to, but I hope our YouTube audience and video audience enjoyed checking out some of this original artwork. My apologies on some of the angles I had to take with it. Again, just the way the room is lit, it's important for me to, try and capture as best I can, but flashes of light and natural light, it can be somewhat of a challenge. But I think we managed to get our point across for today's episode. Now, if you would like to actually visit on campus and check out some of this work, feel free to drop us a line at info@tasqart.com and inquire when our open days may take place. Because what you've seen, if you can believe it, is still not the full amount of material that we have on display here at TASQ Art. There's actually quite a bit more that we can go through, and it probably gives me an excuse then to do a second video in the near future. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking and subscribing. Maybe leave us a comment. This helps with the algorithm. If you like more content like this, don't be afraid to let us know as well. And if you have any follow-up questions or would like a focus on any of the pieces, just drop me a line. I'd be happy to do so. I can even make them individual shorts as well and post them up across our Instagram and YouTube pages. Until next time, Creator in Conversation is a copyright production of McAuley Consultancy 2026.